So, real quick, you fall asleep tonight and your body just decides that lying is no longer allowed. Not when you are awake, not during small talk, not during job interviews, just when you are asleep. Your mouth starts running and it has absolutely no filter, no shame, no chill whatsoever. Your body is unconscious but somehow more honest than it has ever been in your entire waking life. And the worst part? Whoever is in the room gets a front row seat to every single thing you have been pretending does not exist. Your roommate hears it. Your partner hears it. Your mom who came to visit and thought she would just sleep on the couch hears all of it. Every insecurity, every embarrassing crush, every opinion you kept quiet because you needed to survive Thanksgiving dinner, all of it, coming out while you snore. For real bro here, where we say what no one else will. Shh. Now, here is the part nobody is thinking about yet. You sleep every single night, which means this is not a one-time situation. This is your life now, and the truly wild thing? You will not even remember any of it. You wake up totally fine, stretching, making coffee, blissfully unaware. But the people around you? They are sitting across from you at the breakfast table trying to figure out how to look you in the eyes. You asked for extra syrup. They are thinking about what you said at 3 a.m. What exactly does that do to a person? What does it do to their relationships, their career, their entire sense of who they are? Because this is not just a funny thought. This is actually a window into something we never admit out loud. We are all carrying enormous amounts of truth that we have never once said while conscious. And the question is not whether that truth exists. The question is what happens when it finally gets out. Buckle in, because this one gets uncomfortable fast. Part 1. The night you become a completely different person. Alright, first night. Everything seems normal. You close your eyes, you drift off, and then somewhere around 2 a.m., your brain apparently decides it is time for its annual performance review of your own life. Except this time it is happening out loud. In front of witnesses, your partner wakes up because you just said, very clearly, that you think Dave from your office is genuinely funnier than you, and it bothers you more than you let on. You did not mumble it. You did not whisper it. You announced it like you were reading a news headline. Dave, funnier than you. End of broadcast. Now here's the thing most people miss about the scenario. Your sleeping self is not lying either. It is not exaggerating. It is not performing. It is just saying the thing that is completely true that your waking self decided, somewhere along the way, was too uncomfortable to admit. And that gap, the gap between what you actually think and what you say out loud, is way bigger than any of us want to believe. We walk around all day making tiny editorial decisions about reality. You see a friend's new haircut and you say you love it. Your sleeping self would say it looks like they lost a bet. You tell your boss your weekend was fine. Your sleeping self would probably give a detailed summary of how you spent most of Sunday convincing yourself to be productive, and then watched a documentary about cheese instead. Not a metaphor, just cheese. And this is where it starts to get genuinely interesting. Because you think the truth you are hiding is dark, heavy, dramatic. But for most people, the truth that never gets said is just deeply, painfully ordinary. Small insecurities, petty opinions, quiet admissions that you are not exactly the person you try to present yourself as. And somehow those feel even harder to say than the big stuff. By morning you are well rested, refreshed even. Everyone else in the house has been awake for 2 hours processing. And here you come, pouring your cereal, asking if anyone wants coffee. Completely innocent, completely oblivious, completely unaware that your sleeping self just handed out information like a haunted truth vending machine. And that is just night 1. Wait until you find out what happens by the end of the week. Part 2. Actually, this is kind of amazing. No, it is not. Okay, so bear with me for a second, because at first glance this sounds like a nightmare. But some people would actually look at this situation and think it sounds liberating. Finally, no more holding back, no more careful wording, no more of that exhausting daily performance of being slightly better than you actually are. Just raw, unfiltered, honest-to-God truth coming out every night while you peacefully sleep through your own confession booth. And for maybe 5 minutes, that sounds incredible. Freeing even. Because we all know how heavy it is to carry around the version of yourself you are supposed to be. The agreeable one. The successful one. The one who has it mostly together. The one who does not Google things like, "Am I the problem?" at midnight, and then immediately close the tab because you do not actually want to know. So yeah, for about 5 minutes this feels like the answer. Like some kind of cosmic cheat code for authenticity. Your sleeping self handles all the hard conversations. You wake up, they have already been had. Progress, growth, honesty, all while you dreamed about something completely unrelated. And then reality shows up. Because the thing nobody is thinking about in their little liberation fantasy is that honesty without context is just chaos with good intentions. Your sleeping self does not know when to deliver information. It does not check who is in the room. It does not read the situation. It just talks. And what comes out is not some organized emotional reckoning. It is random. It is specific. It is brutal in ways you never even knew you were being brutal. Your friend has been waiting 3 weeks to hear if you liked the song they wrote for you. Your sleeping self answered, loudly, "Into the dark," at 4 a.m., with more detail than anyone wanted. And now your friend is lying on the other side of a wall knowing exactly what you thought of the bridge section, and the verse, and the general concept. Here is the uncomfortable realization this part of the story is building toward. The reason we do not just say everything we think is not because we are cowards. It is because honesty without care is not actually honesty. It is just information with no responsibility attached to it, and your sleeping self has all the truth and exactly zero of the responsibility. So now you're not liberated. You are just honest in the worst possible delivery format. Congrats. Part 3. The relationships get weird fast. By week 2, something has shifted. People around you are acting different. Not cold exactly, more like cautious. Like they are suddenly very aware that you are two people now. The daytime version that they have always known, and the nighttime version that apparently has opinions about everything and the social awareness of a golden retriever. Your best friend texts you, but they phrase things differently now. More careful. Like they are already bracing for whatever your sleeping self might say about their life choices tonight. And you have noticed it, but you cannot bring it up, because you genuinely do not know what you said. You are just watching people treat you like a live wire and you cannot figure out which part of you spark. And this is where the thing you thought was your harmless sleep quirk starts to reveal something genuinely unsettling. The relationships you have built, a lot of them were built partly on what you chose not to say. Not out of dishonesty. Out of something closer to care. You did not tell your sister that her boyfriend gives you a weird feeling because you did not want to put her in an impossible position. You did not tell your friend that their business idea sounded risky because they were so excited and it was not your money. You did not tell your coworker that you find their energy draining because it would make every Monday impossible. Those were choices. Considered, human, complicated choices. And your sleeping self just walked through all of them like they were not even there. Left every door open, let everything out, and now the relationships that were comfortable because of careful silence are suddenly very uncomfortable because of unplanned honesty. Here is the twist nobody sees coming. You start to realize that the people who are handling it the best are the ones you were already being most honest with, the friendships where you were already saying the hard stuff, where you had already fought and sorted it out, where you did not need to manage your words that carefully. Those people are weirdly fine. Maybe even closer now. But the relationships you were coasting on polite distance and careful editing? Those are the ones shaking. Because there was a lot being held in those pauses. And now it is all out on the table. While you slept, and this is the part where you have to ask yourself a genuinely uncomfortable question. Which relationships in your life could survive the full truth about what you actually think? Because your sleeping self is about to answer that question for you. Whether you wanted to know or not. Part 4. The thing you never admitted about yourself. Okay, so by this point the story has done the thing where it seemed like it was about one thing, and it is actually about something else entirely. And we are at the part where that something else becomes impossible to ignore. Because here is what nobody talks about when they imagine this scenario. The truths that come out are not all about other people. Most of them are about you. what you want, what you are afraid of. What you have been telling yourself is fine when it is not fine. What you have been postponing, what you gave up and told yourself you chose to give up. Your sleeping self has no patience for any of those comfortable little stories you have been running. It says the thing you have not said in years. That you actually miss who you were before you got pragmatic. That the job you settled into because it was stable is fine. It is just not what you meant when you used to think about your own life. That the version of yourself you are most proud of is the one from about 7 years ago, and you are not sure when exactly you stopped trying to be that person. And you definitely did not choose to say any of that out loud. But your sleeping self did. To your partner, who is now lying very still next to you, not sure what to do with what they just heard. Because neither of you had a conversation about that. Ever. Here is the brutal truth this whole situation is pointing at. Most of the lies we tell are not to other people. They are to ourselves. Dressed up as practicality or patience or just not being dramatic about things. We become very good at phrasing the truth in ways that make it easier to carry and harder to confront. And we get so used to those phrases that we start to actually believe them. Your sleeping self did not get the memo. It never agreed to the reframe. It never signed off on the comfortable version of events. It just kept holding the original draft. And now it is reading it. Every night. While you are technically unconscious and cannot intervene. And this right here is where the whole thing flips. Because you wake up one morning and your partner is sitting across from you and they look different. Not bad, just like they know something. And they say nothing. They just hand you your coffee. And you realize your sleeping self said the thing. The real thing. And you still have to figure out what to do with the fact that it is now out there, alive, known. And you have never felt more awake in your life. Part 5. This was never about sleep. Here is where it lands. Here is the theory reveal. This whole scenario, the sleep honesty, the overheard confessions, the relationship chaos, the uncomfortable morning silences, none of it is really about what happens when you can only tell the truth while you sleep. It is about what happens when the truth already exists inside you and you have been the only one keeping it from the room. Because you were never actually lying. You were just postponing. Indefinitely. And the thing about indefinitely postponement is that it does not feel like a choice after a while. It just feels like who you are. Like this is just how it is. Like the distance between who you thought you would be and who you ended up being is just the cost of being an adult. And you have gotten so comfortable in that story that you forgot it was a story you started telling yourself. Your sleeping self never bought it. All those quiet truths you filed away under maybe later, or not worth the conversation, or I should probably just be grateful for what I have. Your sleeping self kept them all. Filed every single one. And apparently organized them by urgency. And here is what is actually kind of beautiful about the chaos this situation created. Remember in the hook we talked about how people around you would hear things and not know how to look you in the eyes? Well, here is the callback. The people who could not look you in the eyes at breakfast were not uncomfortable because the truth was terrible. They were uncomfortable because the truth was recognizable. They had been holding similar things, and hearing yours out loud made them suddenly very aware of how loudly their own was sitting inside them. The truth, when it gets out, does not just affect the person it is about. It touches everyone in the room, because everyone in the room is also carrying something. And when they hear yours, they feel theirs move. Just a little. Just enough to remind them it is there. So what do you actually do with all of this? Do you wake up one day and decide to become someone who just says everything? No. Because your sleeping self was not right about timing or context or how to actually be in a relationship with someone. But maybe you start narrowing the gap between the thing you feel and the thing you say. Not all the way, just a little. Just enough that your sleeping self has less material to work with at 3 a.m. Because the most honest version of you is not the one that says everything. It is the one that does not build up so much pressure that the only way it escapes is while you are unconscious and completely unable to take responsibility for it. That is the move. That is the actual thing this whole ridiculous scenario is pointing at. Not radical honesty. Not emotional chaos. Just slightly less postponing. Just enough that the people in your life get the real version of you while you are actually awake to have the conversation, while you can actually hear what they say back, while it can actually go somewhere. Because right now, your sleeping self has more honest conversations than your waking self does, and that is the thing nobody wants to say out loud, including you. Drop a comment. Not asking you to be deep about it. Just tell me the last thing you said, "I'm fine," about when you were very, very clearly not fine. Because the comment section is basically a judgment-free zone, and at this point your sleeping self probably wants the credit anyway. And if this whole thing somehow made you feel something, you can subscribe. Or don't. Your sleeping self will probably tell me the truth about whether you did.